All right, everybody, thanks for joining us. Coach Chryst has joined us, and we'll start with some comments, then we'll go to questions.
All right, well, it's certainly appreciative that, we've had this opportunity to have spring practice. And I think in many ways got a lot out of it. And, if you just go through kind of the positions, a lot of this spring, we had a lot of offensive linemen that were able to go through with it, and kind of a unique mix. We've got Brusser and Beecher and Seltz, Caden. They played a lot of football, but I think it was really good for them to kind of settle in, and I think it's kind of a theme throughout a group of guys that played a lot of football. Still really good opportunity to kind of hone in on some very specific points in their development. And then a lot of young linemen that got, I thought, a ton of work, and not just in the on the field in practice, but then every day followed by meetings, and then you get a chance to maybe walk through it. And so it's a great chance to learn by all. And the receivers, I've liked how we've got a group that and Danny and KP and Dunner have played a lot, but really just talking to Danny, and this is the most reps he've ever gotten in the spring, and for him to be able to get that, every other spring he'd been injured, and certainly missed a couple of practices, but I think found all of them found windows to get better. And then like for Devin Chandler, great opportunity to work on things. And Chim was kind of in a unique spot, played a lot of football, but then able to go through a spring, his first spring. So, I think that group really got a lot out of it. And obviously, tight end Fergus played a lot of football and got quite a bit of work. And yet, we've got 4 or 5 tight ends that got a lot out of it, and helps them in their growth, and kind of for us to kind of see what their strengths and weaknesses are. And obviously, running back was limited, but going into this thing, it was, John Schnell had played a lot of football for us, but gave us an opportunity kind of coming in, regardless of what was happening with the tailbacks. We were wanting to see if we could kind of broaden his role a little bit. And so that part was good. And you look at defensively, and, D line, Henny has played a lot of football, and was able to get a ton of work, and that whole group, working with Ross and getting a feel there. But then I thought a lot of good work for the rest of the group. And I think, guys like Gio and Rodas, and you got some young guys that I think took advantage of the number of reps they were able to get. And then, you take a look at the outside linebacker spot, and we thought we think we got a good group there, but a group that needs a lot of work. They're young. Most everyone in that group is, this is their first spring practice, aside from Noah and I think CJ gets. And so, great for Nick Herbig to go through a spring and to be able to kind of concentrate on a couple different things and work that. And, Witter got through a lot of spring and then kind of missed the tail end of it. But you just go down the line. Caden Johnson got more work than he was able to get all last year. And, inside backers, obviously Jack and Leo, played a lot of football, but, every practice found something to work on and to get better at. And then, where are we at with the depth? I think that, Mumu was able to get a lot of work and take grass. And so I think that, Mikey Mascalunas has been through, he's the one that's been through a lot of springs, but it's got to help with that group. And, take a look at the back end. And it was fun to see Scott Nelson, kind of as he's come back, played a lot of football. But I think from his injuries to this year, it seems like he really, truly confident in kind of where he's at health wise. And obviously him and Colin, bring a lot to our defense. But it was good to see them getting going. And then you got our corners and a group that's played a lot of football, and some young guys that took advantage of the opportunities to develop and also, working with Hank Poteet. So I think there's a lot of good that came out of this spring, and obviously very grateful for it. And, something we didn't have last year. And I think regardless of what happens each year in spring, as a coach personally, you would like it to keep going. And yet I think that, there's things that we'd like to change. Yeah, we'd like to have everyone healthy and going through it. But I think a lot of guys that really did invest in it were able to take advantage of it. And so you appreciate that. And guys will finish up this semester, get a chance to come home, and there's 2 of our phases are done, and then we gotta focus in on having a great summer and great fall camp, and the season will be upon us. So hate to see a spring ball ending, but obviously grateful that we've been able to have it. Take that, Jeff.
Anything else, Jeff?
I think I covered it all.
I messaged Brian during that. I said, he doesn't want to take questions, does he?
Well, you're on me there too, but you had time, put it this way, you had time to actually come up with a message and send it.
Hey, Paul, on a serious note, one thing you're also going to get back this year is kids coming on campus for recruiting starting in June again. And I'm just curious, are you looking forward to being able to take advantage of that again? And is there anything you learned having to be all Zoom that you can retain, or do you not need to worry about that anymore with kids coming back?
Yeah, I mean, we are obviously really excited about getting guys back on campus, and we got a class that's coming in June, starting, and it's been a long time since they've been on campus, and I think we got a couple that really they haven't been inside our facility. So you certainly have that component, but then guys that you've been recruiting and have a chance to have for an official visit, or guys coming in unofficial. And so, having them be able to come is big. And yet I absolutely think that there are lessons learned, and I give a lot of credit to so many other people that found a way to really make the Zoom something you can use and where you can connect. For the longest time, you try to get on the phone with guys, but now you can get in essence, you can make contact, but you can show them, you can see each other. And so I think there's a lot of those, what we used, this past year that you want to carry forward. And certainly I think in the recruiting part of it, it would be beneficial.
Colton?
Paul, you mentioned the line getting a lot of work in. Obviously, at that left tackle spot, Tyler Beach and Logan Brown have kind of been battling it out 1 and 2. What have you seen from Logan in the last few weeks? I know he's been in and out, but just what have you seen from him during the spring that's maybe a step up from what you saw previously?
Yeah, I think it's, anytime you have the ability to I think it's been helpful for him where you can go and you have a practice, and then you have a meeting and you have a walkthrough, and kind of just reinforcing maybe some of the basics. And I think, it gets a chance to kind of settle in, and whenever that happens, and really it's at all positions, then you can start to play a little bit more, right? That every player, particularly young players, come in and there's a point where you're thinking and you end up overthinking, and there's this kind of a sweet spot where you obviously are still thinking when you're playing, but the focus is more on just playing. I thought he had some days and some moments where he felt like he could just go out and he was playing, and it was, whenever anyone can do that, I think that's it's a good sign, and it's also the way that you've got to get to. So it was certainly good. I thought the last couple of practices that he was able to go were probably some of his better ones, and I don't think there's any guy that went through this spring that you say, boy, we've arrived where we need to be. But I think that the guys that went and invested, I think certainly took advantage of the time to get better.
Steve?
Just wondering, as you head out of spring practice now, what's your confidence level in the passing game with Graham now having a year of experience and with all the receivers and tight ends you have back being closer to full strength?
Well, I think, it's a work in progress. And, I've liked what they've done, and I think that, they have confidence in each other. And yet, I think part of my job is to, obviously you want them to have confidence, but you also want to realize there's a lot still to be done. There's a lot of work to be done. And this has been a really good start to it. We're able to do a lot in the first phase. Winter conditioning, you're not doing a ton. But I think there's a lot that we did this spring that we can build on and work on this summer, and certainly need to carry into fall, to where when you're playing the season, you are at that appropriate level of confidence. But right now, still want them to be hungry too. And so I think they have confidence in each other. I do believe that. And we got to continue to put the work in, and every area we can still get better at.
Zach? Can't hear you, Zach. Go back to Colton.
Well, you mentioned Gio on the defensive line. I know he's kind of filled in at that nose tackle spot with Bryson and Keanu in and out of the rotation there. Is that something that maybe you didn't know that he could do right away, play that nose spot coming from the DN spot, or this spring maybe show a little bit out of him that you didn't know about?
I think we knew it, but I think Colton, it just gives you a chance to get, when you get a lot of reps, and if you have a certain number of reps and you do something well, okay, you know that it's in them. But then, when you can get a repeated performance, and then, when things aren't going well, you can see him, okay, this is what Ross is working on and correcting it, and you can see him starting to apply it. So I think it takes time, right, to kind of see an evolution and a growth. And for a long time, he's been one that, would go and then he'd be out because of injury. And so I think just to be able to see guys continue to go, that's a big part of it, certainly from our end of it. We talk all the time that the importance of being available so that you can get those opportunities to get better. And you can get better from doing things well and then trying to do it again. You get better from learning, okay, this isn't how or what I want to do. And so I think that, I appreciate that whole D-line group. I think they've done a good job of taking what Ross is trying to stress and teach and applying it. And I think Gio certainly is one of those.
Zach, we'll try to take two there.
Yeah, sorry about that. Have you had a chance to look at some of the potential changes to fall camp and its impact, especially potentially with the limited padded practices and the fewer scrimmages?
Yeah, just kind of briefly and looking at it and like so much of it, you kind of want to do your part in whatever feedback they may want to get, and then once you get what it is that we're going to do, have the best plan for it. So getting more familiar with it, obviously. To this point, the number one priority is making sure we make the most of our spring practice, but certainly aware of it, and whatever it will be, that we'll have a good plan for it, and make sure we get our guys ready for not just the first game, but for the season.
All right, we'll wrap things up with one more from Jeff.
Kind of another off the field question, Paul. Name, image, and likeness obviously is something current players and recruits are going to be aware of. Some states are going to have things in place this summer, some aren't. Is that something you have to deal with recruits? They ask you about that, about being at Wisconsin. Are they going to be able to take advantage of that? How do you deal with that if that topic comes up?
Yeah, I think that it is coming, right? And I think that this is one for me personally. It's coming, and you may not know all the specific details, but I think you absolutely, with our current players, you find the right windows to address it. And certainly it would impact recruiting just the same, right? And so I know that we've got a number of people within the department that have spent a lot of time on it, and again, I don't know if any of us know exactly what it's going to be, but you have a good enough indicators that something's coming, and we better be prepared for a number of different scenarios. And so I think that absolutely it's coming, and if done right, boy, it makes a lot of sense, right? And how do we do it the right way, and how do you do it in a way that players can take advantage of it, but also not get distracted by it or get in trouble because of it, right? The unintended consequences of it, because by this opens up a lot of other things. And so I think, like a lot of anything new, you want to just make sure guys have an understanding. I think that's a big part of it is, okay, this is kind of what it means, big picture. And when, it's a shift, right? That from a lot of what's happening. So there are going to be some issues that they did not have to necessarily worry about, that if you're trying to take advantage or going to take advantage or can take advantage of anything with name, image, likeness, then, whether you're talking about taxes or whatever it may be, time spent, however that's going to look. I think it's a great opportunity that we will have, certainly this summer with our current players. And obviously it's going to come up, because your recruits, you're talking to them as if they're going to be your current players. So I think definitely it's things that you've got to come up and not as concerned about pinpointing the exact details of it, but absolutely, I think the discussions, we have started them and they'll continue to go certainly this summer.
All right, thanks, Coach.
All right, thank you.